Long peace and blessings. Welcome to the Fourth Angels Learning Center. Today is a Patreon Q&A. We are dealing with the resurrection. The question is, does the resurrection originate in the New Testament or the concept originate within the Torah and the prophets? We're going to look at this, harmonizing both Old and New Testament, which is the scriptures. All right. If you are watching this, this is a early access Patreon Q&A. If you would like to support the ministry and join the Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/4ALC7. That's patreon.com/4ALC7. All right. Let's get into this question. This question is, does the resurrection originate in the New Testament, or does it have its origin, the concept having its origin in the Old Testament? Well, not only are we going to talk about the concept and the statements referencing the resurrection, we're not going to go to Revelation. That's too easy. We're going to let Messiah express this, right? Not only are we going to look at that, but we're going to show that there has also been a resurrection in the Old Testament as well. So let's start with the concept. The concept in the New Testament, John chapter 5. So it says here in verse 21, it says, "For as the Father raised up the dead and quickeneth them, even so the Son quickeneth whom he will." So it's talking about the Father, Yahuwah, raising the dead. It says, "For the Father judges no man, but hath committed all judgment unto the Son." It says that all men should honor the Son, even as they honor the Father. He that honors not the Son honors not the Father that sent him. And this is just showing and breaking down, why does Messiah have the authority to raise the dead? Because the Father is bestowing on him this authority. It says here in verse 24, "Verily I say to you, he that hears my word and believeth on him that sent me," talking about Yahuwah, "has everlasting life. He shall not come into condemnation, but is passed from death to life. Verily I say to you, the hour is coming, now is, when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of Elohim. They that hear shall live. For as the Father has life in himself, even so he gave the Son to have life in himself." Meaning that the life that the Father possesses, immortality, is being bestowed. The charge or the responsibility to extend this life to others has been given to the Son, and have given him authority, there we go, to execute judgment also, because he is the Son of Man. Now this, marvel not at this, for the hour is coming in which all that are in the grave shall hear his voice. Now this is the part that we're going to see is in direct correlation to the prophet Daniel. It says, "And shall come forth they that have done good unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation." The resurrection of life, two resurrections actually, the resurrection of damnation. Where do we see this in the book Prophet Daniel? Let's go to the prophet Daniel. Now, right before this resurrection, we're going to see a great time of trouble, which Messiah talks about in Matthew 24. I'm going to show this because this correlates with Daniel as well. Messiah makes mention of the condition of the world during this tribulation in verse 21. It says, "For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor shall ever be." A great tribulation, all the nations. This is totally different than what has ever been seen. Plus, there's going to be a resurrection at the end, where all those who are in the grave will hear the Messiah's voice, and they will raise some to life, some to damnation. Let's see if this is a concept that we could find within the prophets. Let's take a look. Let's go to Daniel chapter 12. Daniel chapter 12, looking at verse 1 and 2. It says, at that time, Michael shall stand up, the great prince, which stands for the children of your people. It says, look, there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. Do you see that? This is the same thing that we just read in Matthew chapter 24 about the tribulation that is not going to be since the world began. This was like, since a nation arised, this is going to be this time period where Michael will stand up and the great prince will stand up for the children of your people. This time will be during a time of trouble or tribulation that has never been seen since a nation existed. It says, at that time shall your people be delivered, everyone that shall be found in the book, which we know in Revelation, it says all the people that's written in the book of life are the ones that's going to be delivered. Now, verse 2 is what we see in John chapter 5. Many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. Resurrection, some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt. Very clear. Those who sleep in the dust. Sleeping in the dust is also a concept of death. This is exactly what Messiah was mentioning in John chapter 5. Now, interesting that it says sleep in the dust of the earth. John chapter 11, when it comes to the death of Lazarus, right? We see that Lazarus was dead. But look at what it says. John 11:11. It says, these things he said, and after that he said to them, our friend Lazarus sleeps. Sleep, same concept that Daniel has. But I go that he may awake out of his sleep. His disciple says, oh, if he sleep, he shall do well. Howbeit Yahushua spake of his death, calling his death sleep. But they thought that he had spoken up of the rest in sleep. And Yahushua said to them plainly, Lazarus is dead. Now, as we go down, you're going to see very, very, I think most people remember, Messiah made a mention in verse 25, says, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believes on me, though he was dead, yet he shall live. Now, he's not talking about earthly resurrections. He's talking about the concept of being connected to Yah, like having the life of Yah in you. And even though you die, you have the life of Yah in you. You are going to be in the resurrection of life. So as we come down, he tells them to take the stone away in verse 39. Then he starts to pray. And then in verse 43, he says, Lazarus, come forth out of the tomb. Now, where in the Old Testament, let me increase my picture. Where in the Old Testament do we see a reference of a resurrection occurring before that resurrection of judgment that Daniel 12 talks about at the very end during this time of tribulation or time of trouble? Let's see. Let's see if there's a resurrection that exists. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 14. I don't think it's chapter 14 though. Oop. Is it chapter 14? I think it is chapter 14. Nope. All right, let me see if I can find it. Resurrection. Resurrection in the Old Testament. Okay, I think it's in 2 Kings, but let me just double check. I think it's 2 Kings chapter 13. All right, so let me share the screen. 2 Kings chapter 13. So it says here in verse 20, and Elisha died, and they buried him. The bands of the Moabites invaded the land at the coming in the year. It came to pass that as they were burying a man, that behold, they spied a band of men, meaning they saw some Moabites coming So what did they do? They threw the dead man into the tomb of Elisha. When the man was let down and touched the bones of Elisha, look at what it says. He revived and stood up on his feet. He revived and stood up on his feet. So just touching the bones of Elisha, the prophet, this dead man that they were burying during this war against the Moabites resurrected. This is, I mean, it's a crazy situation, but at the end of the day, there's a evidence of resurrection in the Old Testament. So during the prophets, there was a resurrection. Messiah made mention of Daniel chapter 12. Not only Daniel chapter 12, verse 2 about the resurrection, but also Daniel chapter 12, verse 1 about the times of trouble. So I hope that this makes it clear. If you have any more questions, please feel free to send it this way. And I'll see you in the next question. Shalom. Shalom, shalom. Thank you guys for joining our study today. I hope that it was edifying. And if you want to support this ministry, you can support us on 4alc.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube page. Click the like button and the notification bell. I hope to see you guys on the next study. Shalom, guys.